All right, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Demetrius. I'm the head of sales at a company called Better Wealth, where we hone in and focus in on high cash value whole life insurance. And you're likely here because you are a life insurance agent, you've been an agent for a long time, or perhaps you've just started and you're just learning from various people, myself included, how do you go about making sales in the life insurance arena to such a point where people actually want to buy from you today and not kick the can down the road. So we've been going through a series here of what I'm personally giving my team from a standpoint of the training that I personally have been receiving from Jeremy Miner's seventh level company and what they call NEPQ, or neuro emotional persuasion questioning. So just know that this is nowhere near the in-depth training that you would get directly from NEPQ, but it's just me applying what I've been learning so far from a standpoint of what we learned directly from the coaches at NEPQ, from the course in and of itself, and even how I'm applying it. And so this is just my perspective, and you can take what you want from it. Leave some comments in the comment section below if you want to ask me some further questions. I'm more than happy to delve a little bit further with you. But that is the point of this video. So if you haven't seen already sessions 1, 2, and 3 that I also recorded before this, I would highly, highly, highly encourage that you go back and watch those first, because we go through sequentially the connection stage, the beginning of the engagement stage with situation questions, problem awareness, solution awareness. And today we're getting into consequence questions. Okay. So let's first start off by sharing with you some of the things that I've actually already shared with my team, which is just kind of my own experience using NEPQ so far. So I had my first couple of calls using NEPQ. I don't take nearly as many calls as my team, but I have to take some calls to really know what this is actually feeling like. So I had a couple of calls a few days ago. It was one of those situations to where, and this is what you'll likely experience with anything new. It's like it feels good until you don't know where to go, especially if you had a way of doing things before entering into NEPQ, right? And so the epiphany that I had through this, though, is that I need to train myself on applying the psychology of NEPQ, not necessarily applying the tactics or applying the script or needing to adhere to the script as closely as possible. And I think that's true of any script that you have. If it's a question-based framework, or if it's just you say this and you say this, you say this, right? I would agree that NEPQ and question-based frameworks are better. But regardless of which one you have to learn to be nimble within all of that. No, so one of the trainers from the Inner Circle program that I'm a part of within NEPQ said just yesterday, here are the 3 rules of selling. Number 1, be a good human. Number 2, don't be weird to prospects. So what's an example of being weird? An example of being weird very generally is you're sticking to the script and you're asking question after question after question, and you whether you realize it or not, you're asking a question that doesn't align. That's weird. People pick up on that. So with that said, use NEPQ or whatever framework you're using, use it as a general guide, a general framework, right? You should understand where you're supposed to be at this point versus that point versus the other point. More specifically, in NEPQ, connection stage. What's the results of that? Why are we using it? What's the point of it? The situation questions. What are we looking for there? So on and so forth. Like that's really, really important. And so my understanding of the use it as a general guide, use it as a framework, really boils down to me is talk like a normal human being, right? Don't be weird. Okay. Don't talk like a normal human being. You need, even though you know the psychology behind what you're asking, the way that it lands should never feel like to the prospect that they're being sold to or that you're using a particular tactic, right? For example, if you're going deep, 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 deep into an emotion, right? Because they say that sales are made on the emotional side of things, and you're just going too deep and you're being odd about it. Well, they're gonna pick up on that. So do it in such a way that they do not pick up on it. And what you're going to learn is a lot of times less is more. Brevity is more. Okay, just be cognizant of that. Now, a non-sales related idea and something that I've known about for 15 years or so, something like that, is just an example of when you see someone at church, you see someone at you meeting them at a restaurant or whatever that may be, and you say, "Hey, how's it going? How's your day going?" Whatever that may be. You could always reframe that by saying, "What's been the best part of your day? What's been the best part of the last couple of weeks since we last saw each other? Right? What's been the best part? What stood out?" So what that does is it forces them to say something that's a lot more specific as opposed to good. Yeah, it's all right, right? It pulls it out. And so the thing about that is, even though psychologically what's happening, and there's that psychological shift or pattern interrupt, they don't see anything wrong with it, right? They may notice that there's a difference, but they're not going to go, "You're a weirdo for asking that question." You know what I mean? So I hope that helps. Now, as a recap of what we've covered so far, like we opened up the call in such a way that causes folks to lower their guard, and that obviously that is the connection stage. We've gotten the lay of the land, so that's situation stage. We got to expand on the problem a little bit. We brought the subconscious to the conscious level, right? That's the problem awareness stage. And then they started to say out loud what an ideal solution would look like for them, which is the solution awareness stage. And now today, we're going to be delving directly into consequence questions. Okay. So the purpose of consequence questions is pretty much to get them to understand what is the impact of them doing nothing. For them to stay exactly where they are, for them to say they really wanted to have a change, but them to stay exactly where they are. Not that we want them there, but what would be the consequence of them being there if that were to be what they decided to do. Okay. It's not about being pressure filled by any stretch of the imagination. It's about helping them to visualize, again, just in their brain and saying it out loud. What are the consequences of not fulfilling on the solution that they know they need? Okay. The tone of voice that you have is one of like perhaps a challenging tone at times, right? Perhaps a concerned tone at times as well, right? That's really the tone that we're looking at using when it comes to the consequence question. So again, we're creating this emotional contrast. We're painting the picture for them. There were problems that you were dealing with, and now there's going to be consequences if you don't solve said problems. That's really important. So we're showing them through our questioning ability the cost of inaction and getting them to say out loud to us what that cost of inaction would be, what life would look like if they maintain how they are. More importantly, they're not just telling us, they're telling themselves. And what's more persuasive, when you tell yourself something and you internalize these things yourself, or if you have someone external telling you what you need to do? Usually it's going to be more persuasive if you are telling yourself and you have that internal tension within side of yourself. So here's an example, right? Like if nothing changes and your money kind of stays exposed to market risk, like, what do you see happening over the next few years, right? Now you may have a lot more context at this point. The context about all of that, you may have just talked about money and exposing of risk and things of that nature, right? So you can be as simple as, I mean, if nothing changes and you kind of stay where things are, like what happens once you get to retirement years, right? And the market doesn't stop fluctuating just because you're there, right? You know what I mean? You're kind of feeding them a little bit about what the answer really would be because they know what the answer is regardless. Okay. That's an example. We're going to skip over this part here, but ultimately just know that when you're asking these questions, you want to practice a little bit of verbal pacing. And this may be a point where you actually want to speed up the tone just a little bit, simply because of the fact that you want it to land in a particular way. And typically, a challenging tone results in that, right? But through that, you still want to maintain neutrality and calmness either way. Now, remember, this is going to be a theme. This has been a theme from the very first, especially situation questions and beyond, is probe, clarify, probe, clarify, clarify, probe, right? If they say anything to you that just does not seem right, it just doesn't seem full, doesn't seem complete, clarify, right? Just ask a clarifying question, right? Probe a little bit if you want to come at it from another angle. If you feel it necessary, if you feel it's actually going to do you some good, do that as well, right? So just know that that's going to be something that happens all the time. It does not stop, but we're going to maintain neutrality. We're going to maintain curiosity. We're going to maintain calmness as well. Okay. Um, Now, when it comes to the internalizing piece, I mentioned this before. I alluded to it before, but throughout consequence questions, you've gotten pretty deep at this point. The gap has widened. Internal tension matters. External tension doesn't matter nearly as much, right? They know now what the real problem is. They see it in front of them. They know what life will look like if they had the solution, if they had their ideal outcome. They know what the consequences of them not solving the problem is. And they said all these things out loud. What does that do? It widens the gap more so in their brain, in their heart, in their mind, simply because they were the ones that said it, as opposed to, us throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping something sticks, right? that is nowhere near as effective, and unless, again, it's internal to the people that you're selling to and that you're looking to help and serve. Okay. um and one last thing that I'll say here with all of this: when done well, the prospect asking themselves internally, they may be asking themselves, whether, I mean, it could be internal, it could be external, but like they're wanting to ask themselves, what do we do now? How do we move forward from here? And that's what we'll talk about in the next video or two, that revolves around our job of continuing to ask a handful more questions in order to smoothly transition into the presentation stage. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know what questions you have below. I'm happy to make a separate video about this specifically. If you want me to delve into anything specifically, I'm happy to do so. Or I'm even happy to even have a quick phone call, video message, video meeting, or something like that with you as well. If you really want to have somebody to role play with, bounce ideas off of, and things of that nature, because I'm happy to be a resource, not only for my team, but for you guys watching at this point in time as well. So God bless you. Have a good one. We'll talk soon. Bye bye.